What's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard, Ballard Sports Media, coming at you live on Monday with the Touchdown Show with myself and Mayhem, where we preview tonight the SEC East plus Oklahoma teams for 2024. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm just ready to dive into these teams. We're going to preview each and every one of these teams. All these teams are coming from the old SEC East plus Oklahoma. I know the East and the West are done. There's no such thing anymore this coming year in 2024. But we are going to take a look at teams like Vanderbilt, Kentucky, South Carolina, my favorite, Georgia, my worst, Florida, Tennessee, Missouri, and Oklahoma. So, with that being said, I'm very excited to get right on into this. We're going to take a look at, we're going to preview each and every team, and we're going to, if we want to give a prediction, we can. If you don't, then that'll be fine too. We'll look at the schedule and say if that's a win, a loss, or a 50-50 game. I guess we could do that. But with that being said, let's get right on into it.
Yeah, let's start with Vanderbilt first. Just go ahead and rip the band aid off here. There's really not much to get into, but I think the goal for them when you look at their schedule should be to win a SEC game. I think they could do pretty good at the non-conference. I think that this could be a good year to try to make a bowl if they wanted to hit 6 wins, but let's just be realistic that that's not really a major expectation at Vanderbilt. What do you think before we look at the schedule?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. There are a couple of teams that we'll dive into whenever we look at the schedule that I think are realistic wins for Vanderbilt. I'm gonna go ahead and before we look at the schedule, I want to go ahead and dive into what they have coming back and what they have leaving. So the wide receivers, let's start with the offense. The wide receivers are pretty much gone. They lost Will Shepard to Colorado, London Humphreys to Georgia, and Jaden McGowan to Boston College. They were you know, they were pretty much the best that Vanderbilt had on the wide receiving room there. The offensive line is pretty solid for Vanderbilt. For Vanderbilt's standard. Um, they have Mississippi State transfer Steven Loisoya and at center, and they have UTEP Stephen Hubbard at guard. They have a couple other guys that are veterans that are coming back. Pavia will add plenty to the running game, but leading rusher Cedric Alexander will handle a bulk of the work. So they're coming back for them. Also, as far as the quarterback goes, um, Nate Johnson is probably the starting quarterback. Um, but you also have Diego Pavia. He is coming from New Mexico State. So you got a quarterback battle right there. I think Nate Johnson is probably the better quarterback whenever you're talking about them two guys. But remember, Tim Beck is the offense coordinator, and he comes from New Mexico State, which Diego Pavia is also coming from New Mexico State. So that has a little bit um, of favor for Diego. But I think as far as who's better, I think Nate Johnson's probably the better quarterback. We saw him a little bit at Utah, playing like a two quarterback system there. And also, Nate Johnson was a 4-star quarterback coming straight out of high school. Defensively, you have pretty good linebackers. You got leading tackler Langston Patterson is coming back. You got Prince Colley is an edge rusher. So he's going to be back. You got safety CJ Taylor and DeRicky Wright is coming back. You got TCU transfer Randon Fontenot and Eastern Washington corner Marlon Jones. So you got some pretty good players there. Uh, they're probably not going to be really good as far as the defensive line goes, but as far as linebackers and safeties go, they'll be okay. They'll be Vanderbilt good. You know what I mean? I think the key to Vanderbilt this season is third down stops. Um, I think as far as Vanderbilt goes, I think you need to get your opponent off the field so that you can take advantage and get a score to go up early. You need to pretty much punch every single opponent that you face in the mouth early and stay on top. I know that's a lot to talk about when we're talking about Vanderbilt, but honestly, a lot of people don't want to talk about Vanderbilt because it don't bring in the viewership and everything like that. But I want to talk about Vanderbilt because nobody's talking about Vanderbilt. Can you please pull up the schedule for me, Ballard?
Yep.
Because something that nobody is talking about is that very first game. Everybody is very high on the Virginia Tech Hokies. Remember, coming into the season, Virginia Tech has to go on the road to First Bank Stadium, the Vanderbilt football team's stadium. Vanderbilt's got a home game versus Virginia Tech. Now, if Vanderbilt wins this game, the whole entire narrative will be, well, Virginia Tech is not what we thought they were. You know what I mean? Because Vanderbilt is just Vanderbilt. That's what people say. Vanderbilt is just Vanderbilt. But for some reason, Vanderbilt gets a home win and then beats Alcorn State and then goes on the road to beat Georgia State. They can be 3-0 going to Farrett Field in Columbia to face the Missouri Tigers. Now, obviously, they're going to lose that game, but I think that first three games, if they were to go undefeated there, would exceed expectations from what most people are thinking about Vanderbilt. What's your take?
I think Vanderbilt could be a much improved team this year. I just think the schedule is really difficult, but I think the non-con favors them. I think they could at least pick up 4 wins if you count that Ball State game. Alcorn State, Virginia Tech, they could get if they pulled the upset week 0 or week 1. Technically, I apologize. They could go 3-0 into that Missouri game. They'll get the bye week. They do host teams like Alabama, and we still got to figure out what they're going to be under Kalen DeBoer. But I think they get a huge victory in Nashville. Ball State could be win number 4. Could they get Kentucky and South Carolina? Is the big question to pick up 6 wins. I think it's possible, but I don't think it's likely. I think that Clark Lee is doing a fantastic job at recruiting, utilizing the portal, bringing guys in at Vanderbilt. He is just doing a phenomenal job in that category, but they are still miles behind everybody else in the SEC. The non-conference is favorable, but once you get into games like Kentucky, Alabama, Missouri, obviously those games are going to be really, really tough. I just have a hard time finding 6 wins, but any given year, anything's possible in the SEC, especially with the fact that there's no divisions and you got Texas and Oklahoma in there too.
For sure. A lot of people are expecting Vanderbilt to go 2-10, 3-9, something like that. But let's just make a scenario here. You said it's hard to find 6 wins. If they were to get 6 wins, what must be the wins, and what are the pretty much for sure losses in your opinion?
Well, you're looking at 6-6 at minimum just to try to hit a bowl game. And let's just call it what it is. If they do make a bowl game, they're not going higher than 6 wins on this schedule. I think you win the non conference. I think you win these first 3 games with the Hokies, the Braves, and the Panthers. At Missouri, you could. You could. I don't think that's likely. But I would say if they were to win 3 more games, I look at Ball State, that's one. I look at Kentucky, and I look at South Carolina. Those 3 games after their first 3 will give them 6 wins to ultimately push them for a bowl.
Right. So pretty much what I'm hearing from you is, well, if you play the statistics, they're probably not making a bowl game. And let's just say you win either at Kentucky or you beat South Carolina uh, in your own in your own stadium. Um, that would lead me to believe the ceiling for this team is probably 5-7. Would you not agree?
Yeah, it's likely. That could be their ceiling. Again, it's very hard to see exactly uh, 6 wins, but you point out 5-7. That is still a really good year for Vanderbilt because it does show progress and improvement. But I would ask the question: how long do you give Clark Lee to make a bowl?
I mean, uh, just in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, they went 5-7 in 2022, beating Kentucky at Kentucky, and they beat Florida. So you know, I don't think it's um I don't think Clark Lee is on some type of hot seat or anything. I think they just need to stay competitive in these games. Obviously the Alabama game is going to be a blowout. Obviously the Texas game is going to be a blowout. Obviously, the Missouri game is probably going to be a blowout. But I look at that November 2nd at Auburn. Now, call me crazy if you want to. Auburn lost to New Mexico State. By the way, the offense coordinator that beat Auburn last year at Auburn with New Mexico State is going to be the offensive coordinator for Vanderbilt. So, um, and so I look at that game and I think, okay, you may lose that game, Vanderbilt, but can you keep it close? I feel like, you know, a lot of the saying is, we don't count, we don't what's the saying go, like we don't brag over losses, right? But if you're Vanderbilt and you lose to Auburn 21-20, 24-23, or whatever it is, and I think you can call that a win. I mean, yes, it's a loss. It goes down as a loss, but for Vanderbilt, you got to be feeling good about yourself making that game at Auburn a very tight, too close for comfort for the Tigers. So I'm circling that game as you know I'm circling that game because it's it's not out of the realm of possibility. Auburn made a boo boo last year. They lost to New Mexico State. Are they going to have another boo boo like that? I don't know. Um, I think Auburn's going to be a really good team. I have them pegged around 9-3 this year. So Auburn fans, don't come at me. Okay, I literally have y'all at 9-3. I had y'all 9-3 last year, but y'all didn't do that. So, anyways, I'm circling that game. I'm circling the Kentucky game, and I'm circling the South Carolina game. If they can win 2 out of them 3, they make a bowl game for. But I really like that very first game at Virginia Tech. Well, no, not at Virginia Tech, but at home against Virginia Tech, the Hokies. That is going to be a very interesting game to see exactly how this this Vanderbilt football team is going to be. And like I said, they got a quarterback battle going, Diego Pavia and Nick Johnson. But if come on, Nate Johnson is the better quarterback. Yes, I know Diego Pavia is pretty good. You know, I've seen him play a little bit last year for New Mexico State, but come on, man, it's got to be Nate Johnson to start things off. He was in a really big game last year versus was it versus the Gators? Who did Utah start out?
Florida.
Yeah, Florida. I know they played 2 different times, so yeah, Nate Johnson played against them, and Utah won 24-11 with Nate Johnson as the quarterback because Cam Rising was injured. So you got another big game, Virginia Tech. Can you pull up the upset? Because I'm pretty sure Virginia Tech is going to be favored or probably is already favored. But that's pretty much all I had for the Vanderbilt Commodores. We spent a good 17 minutes on this team, and I think this is probably the most time Vanderbilt has ever gotten on any type of podcast, any type of show, any type of anything besides baseball. So there you go.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No. No, not at all for Vanderbilt. I have nothing to say. Trust me. So let's just move on to Kentucky, please.
All right.
And thank you.
Well,
Please and thank you.
Kentucky Wildcats. They bring in Brock Vandagriff as the quarterback. He came from Georgia last season into this season. So I think, Kentucky has been doing this where they get transfer quarterbacks, started with Will Levis, and then that NC State quarterback, I can never think of his name,
Devin
but
Leary.
Devin Leary. And then now they're going with another transfer quarterback. So I think this is pretty much Kentucky's how they are going to start doing things from now on. They're going to bring in this, transfer quarterback and play Brock Vandagriff. He got some playing time in blowouts of games and stuff like that. But starting with the offense, you got, like I said, Brock Vandagriff. So they added Georgia Southern's Bo Allen. Ray Davis, he is gone. And they also bring in Ohio State transfer DeMonte Trayananium. All right. So I think you got some really solid running backs there, especially the Ohio State transfer running back. He's really solid. Haven't seen too much from the Georgia Southern transfer running back, but the offensive line, Marquez Cox comes back. He's a veteran tackle. You also get from Tennessee Gerald Mincy. So you got some pretty good people at the line there. The receiving core, you have Dane Key. He's a deep threat on the outside. Berrien Brown is one of the nation's best all-around playmakers. he plays receiver, and then as far as the defense goes, um, defense wasn't that good last year. Um, they allowed more than 300 points in a season this past year. That was the first time since 2016. I am very high on their defensive line there. Um, you got Deion Walker is probably the nation's best defensive tackle there. Um, you get J.J. Weaver and Walker, and you get Georgia's transfer Jamon Dumas Johnson. I think the defense is going to be, I mean, the strength of this team. Um, the secondary is coming is going to be really good with cornerback Maxwell Hairston, and also you got Jordan Lovett. He had 3 interceptions last year. You got Zion Childress being back there as he was last year's leading tackler, so he should be on the run to do that again. So as far as the Kentucky team overall, I think um, they got a really solid offense and a really solid defense. I think their defense is probably stronger than their offense. Brand new offensive coordinator coming in after their previous offense coordinator went back to the NFL again. Um, so you got brand new offensive coordinator, brand new quarterback. You got some veterans, and you bring in some people from the offense line. You're going to see how that plays out on the field versus teams here in about a couple weeks. Defensively, I think they have one of the best defensive lines in the SEC. Yes, I said that. So it should be a treat for us to see Kentucky. Now let's get into their football schedule, Ballard.
All right. Kentucky opens up with Southern Miss. Shout out to our good friend Sippy Sports Show. Great YouTuber over there. Just love the guy to death. He does really good content, Southern Miss fan. Kentucky opens up with the Golden Eagles in Lexington on August 31st. September 7th, South Carolina Gamecocks come to town. Georgia comes to town the following week, and Ohio comes to town. Then they finally go on the road. They play Ole Miss. They get the bye week. Perfect timing because you got an interesting stretch here. Vanderbilt at Florida, Auburn at Tennessee. Bye week on November 9th. Murray State at Texas. And to cap it off, this is not going to be easy. Louisville at home in Lexington on November 30th.
For sure. So obviously you're gonna beat Southern Miss. I think they beat South Carolina. You're gonna lose to Georgia. You're gonna be
Maybe.
you're gonna you're gonna lose to Georgia.
Maybe. We'll see. No, they're losing to Georgia for sure, man.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
they're losing to
Yeah.
Georgia, just like Alabama
No.
losing to Georgia. But anyways, then you win versus the Ohio Bobcats. You'll take a loss versus Ole Miss. You'll probably end up beating Vanderbilt, even though we just talked about the potential of them, beating them. But I think you go ahead and beat Vanderbilt at Florida. I think you take care of business there. And then that at Florida is a 50-50 game, depending on how good Vandergriff is in that offense. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and say, because I'm a Gator hater, and I want to go ahead and write that up as a W. I think Florida's defense might not be able to stop that run attack that Kentucky is going to bring to them. Remember, just a couple years ago, Kentucky whooped that butt at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. But anyways, then you go face Auburn at home. That's also a 50-50 game. Let's just say you win one and lose one. You'll lose to Tennessee. You'll beat Murray State. You'll lose the Texas Longhorns, and you'll beat Louisville. So that's one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Go up. 5, 6, 7. 7-5. I think 7-5 is really good. I think the ceiling for this team is 8-4. Bottom of the barrel is you got to make a bowl game 6-6. I mean, you have to with this schedule. I am going right in the middle and saying 7-5, but I could see them going 6-6. I can also see them going 8-4 with an upset over some teams. So, what's your overall thoughts of that?
I think you got it right on the head at 7-5. Looking at Kentucky, they open up the schedule pretty good. All 4 games at home. Losing to Georgia, probably winning the other 3. They'll lose to Ole Miss. History has said they lose to Florida in the swamp. They've won there, though, in history as well. And even in recent history, they've gotten Florida. Auburn, I think, is going to be a dangerous team. I'm hearing a lot of good things about Auburn. Kentucky could very much win that game at home. It's tough to go on the road. It'll be a night game at Kroger Field. Auburn could lose that game. But my gut instinct says Auburn wins a close one there. I think Kentucky loses to teams like Tennessee, Texas. I think they'll get Florida and Vandy. So here's my assessment. 1, let's say they get South Carolina. That's 2. Ohio's 3. Vandy and Florida's 5. Murray State 6. And I'm not sure about Louisville. So you could have them 6 or 7 wins, but they will definitely be in the hunt for a bowl game.
For sure. Let's move on to the South Carolina Gamecocks. Has been a team that has been kind of quiet this year. Haven't really heard too much from the South Carolina Gamecocks recently. But brand new quarterback, Lenora Sellers. He's going to be a dual threat quarterback. Also have backup Robbie Ashford. So as far as receiving, you got Xavier Leggett coming back. No, actually, Xavier Leggett is a Carolina Panther. Sorry. Also, Antoine Wells left for Ole Miss, and Trey Knox is in the NFL too. So you lost a lot at the receiving core, but you also have Jared Brown from Coastal Carolina. You also got Amari Bruce from Louisville, and they are pretty experienced there at the receiving core. The offensive line, obviously, last year they were crushed by injuries. You get pretty much all of them back. So you get a whole slew of veterans that saw a lot of meaningful time. So the offensive line has got to be better than they were last year. I mean, unless injuries happen again, which I hope that does not happen. But offensive line is going to improve. We still have question marks on Lenora Sellers. We think he's going to be good. The receivers are going to be, new receivers, but you got some young talent there at the receiving position. As far as the defense goes, defense wasn't that great, but you get some guys from the transfer portal with Gilbert Gilbert Edmond and Kyle Kenyon to boost up that line, that D line. You also got Debo Williams, linebacker. He's coming back. You also got Bam Martin Scott. He's coming back. You also got Charlotte transfer Demetrius Knight. He's going to be a factor in the defense. You also got coming back Jalen Kilgore, and got a couple other veterans around him as well. So pretty much, I think their offense is going to improve with the question mark of Lenore Sellers. I think Lenore Sellers is probably going to live up to the hype. Now let's take a look at their schedule.
Old Dominion to open things up. We just talked about Kentucky. They got them on the road week 2. LSU and Akron back-to-back home games for the South Carolina Gamecocks. They get a bye week on September 28th. They host Ole Miss, but then be careful at Alabama and at Oklahoma in back-to-back weeks. Everyone gets 2 bye weeks because of how the calendar falls. They get their second one on October 26th. They host A&M. They go to Vandy. They host Missouri. They host Wofford, and then they travel to Clemson for the Palmetto Bowl on November 30th.
So I think the ceiling for this team, and I mean the absolute ceiling for this team, is 6-6. Call me crazy if you want to. Type in the chat how crazy I am, and I don't know anything about South Carolina football. That's fine. But as from what I do know and what I just, Lenora Sellers, brand new quarterback, you lose pretty much all your weapons at receiver. Yeah, you got a young group, of talent coming at the receiving core. Hopefully one or two of them receivers, step up and become really good for y'all. That does happen every year. You get a breakout star. I think just as far overall, you get a veteran offensive line. Your offensive line is going to improve, but defensively, I still got a lot of question marks. 6-6 but you would have to win pretty much. You would have to win versus Texas A&M. So you win versus Wofford, you win versus Vanderbilt, you win versus Old Dominion, you'd have to beat Kentucky, win versus Akron, and then that last one you would have to beat Oklahoma on the road, and that's going to be very tough to do. That is like you would have to upset somebody if you. I mean, you would have to upset LSU or something like that. You got a noon game with them on the road at Williams-Brice. Williams-Brice is a really strong stadium. I've been there before. The crowd is always pumped up. I think LSU is going to be a little bit too much for y'all this year. A&M, y'all beat them a few years ago at Williams-Brice. Can y'all do it again? That's also a question mark. You would have to win these games. A&M brings back a veteran quarterback, and LSU brings a brand new quarterback in. So you also bring a new quarterback in. So can you get a win over Clemson at the end of the year? I don't know. I think, people are going to be upset when I say this, but I think Clemson is a college football playoff contender this year with the 12-team playoffs. You're going to see Clemson in there. Clemson last year had a down year. The year before that, remember whenever Carolina beat them 31-30. If Clemson wins that game, they're probably going into the ACC championship with only one loss, and they're in the college football playoff that year. So they're not. Clemson has not fallen off like the media wants you to think. Yes, I know Dabo don't like using the transfer portal, but Clemson is very loaded with talent, 5 stars all over the field. Clemson is going to be a dangerous team with Florida State missing out on a lot. I know they bring stuff with the transfer portal and whatnot, but I actually am pretty high on Clemson this year. So I don't think you beat them, but you know that's a rivalry game, and you never know. Expect the unexpected in them type of games. But with that being said, I think the absolute maximum for this team is a 6-6 season. What's your thoughts?
It's a challenging schedule and anything's possible, like I said, but I would agree that 6-6 is the ceiling.
For sure.
Up next, we still got a couple more to do, plus Oklahoma in the East. Tennessee Vols, and I just closed out of that tab. Great. Hold on. So Tennessee obviously making the college football playoff this year. Probably not going to make the SEC title. We still don't know who's going to make that. No divisions, but Tennessee's actually in a really good position to make that. I just don't think they hit it. I think they probably do go 10-2, but I think they're definitely a playoff lock. They open with Chattanooga. They have a kickoff game against NC State in Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium on September 7th, which is weird that that's not their first game. And it's not even like it's week one, it's week two of the season. Kent State at Oklahoma, you get the bye week. At Arkansas, Florida, the third Saturday game is at home this year with Alabama. They get their second bye week. Kentucky's at home. Mississippi State at home for homecoming. At Georgia, UTEP, and then at Vanderbilt. I think the obvious wins, in my opinion, are UTEP, at Vandy, at Arkansas. I'll give them that one. Kent State. So that's already 4 auto wins. You got to be careful with the rest of that schedule. What do you think, Mayhem?
Well, I mean, you bring in Nico Amalavaliva, however you say his name. You know, from what I've been hearing,
Iamaliava.
Maliava, I'm about to leave you, whatever. So the $8 million man. Um, yeah, so he comes in at quarterback, brand new quarterback. Going to be true freshman this year. Starting, that's a big question mark. I know all the Tennessee Vols fans will tell you that the insiders are telling you that he is the next Hendon Hooker, and he's going to be even better than that. And we're going to win a national title. And 1998 lives on forever, right? But anyways, um, I still think the quarterback is a big question mark. You don't know exactly how he's going to look. Yeah, he beat Iowa 34-0 or whatever it was in what people call a meaningless bowl game. And it's only meaningless if you lose. I've realized that. I realized that bowl games are only meaningless if you're the one that lost. If you're the team that lost. It's only meaningless because if Florida State would have beat Georgia, then they would have said they deserved to get in the college football playoff. And then Tennessee won 34-0, and now that becomes meaningless. If they would have lost to Iowa 34-0, then maybe Tennessee would have said, "Well, we started the true freshman, quarterback, Nico, and da 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 da." Look, I just had to go on that rant for a second because I'm telling you, like that's exactly what happens. By the way, I said he is a true freshman. He's a redshirt freshman. He was on the Tennessee offense last year, but that's not the point. He's still going to be a freshman. The offensive line is going to look really good with Gerald Mincy. he left from Kentucky, but former LSU Tigers Lance Hurd is coming to Tennessee. Cooper Mays and Javante Spraggins are some of the nation's best at their positions on the offensive line. So you're going to get a really good offensive line as far as running back goes. You got Jalen Wright. You also got Dylan Sampson there. They're going to rotate at the running back position. The defense, I think, the defense is going to be pretty good. With you got in interior Amari Thomas and Bryson Eason. You also got Omar Norman back there as in the defensive line, and you also have Pierce in that defensive line. So James Pierce Jr. So he's going to come back for one more year. He is definitely going to be in the NFL draft next year. So you got a lot on the defensive line. The linebackers are really good. You know, Keenan Plea came to Tennessee from BYU. He's going to be good. So you got you also got Elijah Herring. He left for Memphis. Arian Carter and Khalil Khabib Perry will be taking over for the for his spot, and Aaron Beasley is going to be on the outside. So you got some new names also, and you also got some familiar names. I think Tennessee, just like you said, is that 10-2, 9-3, just in case they make a little boo boo on the road somewhere. Whenever I look at this, you got to go on the road at Arkansas. Yes, Arkansas is going to be butt cheeks, but it's always tough to play at Arkansas for some reason. If you don't believe me, go ask LSU. Go ask, even the Alabamas of the world. Where did Alabama play last year? Did they play at Arkansas last year?
No, they got him at home.
Well, Arkansas almost won that game. It was 24-21. So, Arkansas is a tough team, even whenever they're not a really great team. So, be on the lookout for teams like at Arkansas, Kentucky. They always play Tennessee tough. Alabama, they get them at home this year. A lot of people are saying Tennessee's going to win that game. I can see a 9-3, 10-2 type of team myself. I'm leaning more towards the 10-2, but Ballard, I'm gonna be honest with you. I am not sold on every single 10-2 team making the college football playoff this year. I'm just not sold on that, sir. Yes,
Surprise, surprise, because you know what? Not every 10-2 team is making the college football playoff.
exactly, and I think Tennessee lands in somewhere in that category. They would have to beat Alabama by a pretty good margin. They would have to keep it close with the Georgia Bulldogs all the way up until the last quarter. They would have to keep it a 10-point game or less. They would have to beat the Florida Gators. They would have to blow teams out like UTEP. They would have to blow out Vanderbilt. They would have to. There's a lot of teams that are going to be 10-2 this season, and in order to submit, yourself into the college football playoff, 100% is to show up and show out in these games. And Tennessee has been doing that in recent years. They just hadn't, had the right amount of wins to make the college football playoff or even the SEC championship. But with that being said, I think Tennessee could go 10-2, and I think they could miss out on the SEC championship, and I think that will hurt them tremendously because what if the two SEC teams are 11-1, and then you have the runner up for the SEC go 11-2, then they're going to choose that over Tennessee's 10-2. Obviously, got more wins, and you went to the SEC championship. So obviously, I think that the SEC championship favors the runner up a lot, especially if they're going to be 11-1 or 10-2 themselves. But I digress. I think Tennessee is going to be a very good team. They're just going to have to hope that some teams lose because I think a lot of teams are going to be very good this year, 10-2 or better, and hopefully they, for Tennessee's sake, that they make the college football playoff and they can make some noise. I want as many SEC teams as I can to get in, so I'll be in favor for the Tennessee Vols to get in if they were to go 10-2, because I want all the SEC teams in there if I can, so I can talk smack during the offseason. But that's what I got for that.
All right. Tennessee could very much pull upsets against Alabama and Georgia. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. I see at most 10-2. Actually, I had Alabama because of the new head coach. I had them losing in Knoxville this year. I I don't know who else. I mean, is Georgia for sure loss? I mean, it's not nothing's automatic in the SEC, but that's most likely loss. I don't know who else they would lose to other than maybe if they dropped NC State to open or if they dropped Oklahoma. So you are definitely looking at 9-3 or 10-2. But I think that they could be a good enough team to win 11 games.
For sure.
All
Um,
right.
whenever I'm gonna just say this last thing, and then I will go on to the next one. Just a couple of years ago in 2022, we had Tennessee opener. They had to go to Pitt. Um, Tennessee ended up being very, very good, going 10-2. That was one of their best seasons in a very long time. They ended up beating Alabama that year as well. Um, so at Neyland Stadium, and remember this game. This is an ACC game. They almost lost to Pittsburgh, 34-27. That was a very, very, very close game to open up. So it wouldn't be like crazy to say that they would struggle early on, especially with a brand new quarterback in Nico with NC State. Now, I haven't done a whole lot of research with NC State. I know don't I'm pretty sure they returned their quarterback. They did the quarterback hokey pokey last season, so don't know which one. I know one of them is returning, so they got experience there with that. And uh, I don't know what they bring back, but as far as NC State, they always have a pretty decent team. Uh, in recent memory they've been able to beat teams like Clemson and stuff like that in recent memory, but don't think NC State is going to win. But just keep on the lookout. That's the very first game. All the nerves are going to be really high in the sky, so just keep a lookout on that.
Yep.
Who's next?
So up next, after Tennessee, we have three teams left if we can get through all of them. Florida is up next. This should be pretty quick and easy.
Yeah, so I have a lot of y'all nerds on my X feed talking about how Florida's going to be super good and how I don't know anything about Florida. right? That's what I'm hearing. I don't know anything about Florida, but got Montrell Johnson coming back. He pretty much shared the field with Trevor Etienne, which is coming to Georgia, by the way. And then you also got you know Mr. Trayon Webb. Um, so he's coming back, and then you also got big a guy in Jaden Ba. He should be in the rotation there. So you got a solid running back room. Graham Mertz. I said this in my tweet. I said this in my post that I think Graham Mertz is a solid quarterback. Okay? I literally said that. So stop coming at me, Florida fans, or I'm gonna change my mind. But Ricky Pearsall, he leaves for the NFL. You got Eugene Wilson is coming back. You also got Wisconsin transfer Dyke. He'll be a deep threat. You also got Arizona State transfer Elijah Badger. He'll be a target that Graham Mertz can throw to. He was Graham Mertz's favorite target whenever they played together at Wisconsin. No, sorry, Dyke was sorry, my bad. But then you got the tight end, you got Hayden Hanson and Arliss Boardingham. Um, so that's the offense. Obviously, I think the offensive line needs some help. Okay, so whenever you're getting Brandon Dickinson from San Diego State, that's a really good pickup, Florida. You got a San Diego State uh, offensive lineman. Awesome. You got offensive tackle Austin Barber. He's coming back,
Coming
which
back.
was on, by the way, which was on a terrible offensive line. Your offensive line's going to be garbage. All right. Anyways, yeah. As far as defense goes, um, the linebackers are going to be okay. You lose Scooby Williams to Texas A&M. Shamar James is back. You also get South Carolina transfer Grayson Howard. So you got some pretty good linebackers there. And then you have in the backfield, you have Devin Moore back there, and you have Jason Marshall. So you got some okay, you got some okay back there. You got some okay players back there, but Florida, you're in trouble this year. Okay, and I don't know why. I just don't understand why fans are excited for. If you get to 6-6 wins, if you get 6 wins, if you're Florida, you should be celebrating a national championship because the difficulty of your schedule that you got is 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 the hardest in the nation. So if you can go 6-6 with that schedule, clap it up. Clap it up. Because I'm telling you, I don't know what got into the Florida Gator fan base head that they're going to be some amazing team. I said Eugene Wilson is their best receiver coming back. I said that on X. I said outside of him, yeah, you got some transfers that are going to be looking good. That is going to be okay. You got the Wisconsin transfer. You got Arizona State transfer. But are they going to look good in a Florida uniform? Are they going to look good going down the field for Florida? Yeah, they might have looked good for Wisconsin. Yeah, they might have looked good for Arizona State. But are they going to look good? Is that going to translate to Florida wins? Is it? That's the question. And I haven't answered that. So yeah, whenever I put Eugene Wilson as the best receiver that you got, I'm telling the truth. And I even gave y'all lots of credit for Graham Mertz. I said he's a solid quarterback. Y'all's offensive line is going to be terrible. It's just a fact. It's a fact of life. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
But anyways, let's look at the schedule. This is the hardest schedule in college football right now, as we know it. So you start out with Miami Hurricanes at you get them, in the swamp. So then you stay in the swamp to face Sanford. You'll get that win. Then you got to go to you stay at home again to face Texas A&M, and then you go on the road at Mississippi State. Let's just say you win one and you lose one. You either beat Miami and you lose to A&M, or you're going to lose to A&M and well, you're going to beat A&M and lose to Miami. One of them scenarios is going to happen. So you'll be with probably one loss, so you'll be 3-1. All right, continue. And hey, Florida fans, once y'all become 3-1, y'all are going to think that y'all rule the world, beating Sanford Bulldogs and the Mississippi State Bulldogs, which is going to be trash this year. Y'all going to be on top of the world. We're 3-1. We're going to the college football playoff. All right, continue. Scrolling down.
I mean, Florida's going to be terrible, and that's an understatement in and of itself. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, scroll down. I want to finish this, and then we'll go to the next one. So you got UCF. You'll beat them. You'll be 4-1. Y'all are gonna be chomping, and y'all gonna be saying we're gonna be playoffs. We're gonna be playoffs. Y'all got to go on the road to Neyland Stadium, and that's where all this hype for the Florida Gators is going to go down the tullet, straight down the tullet. You're gonna lose to Tennessee. They're gonna beat you so bad that Kentucky's probably gonna beat you. You got a bye week, thank God, because you got 2 butt whoopings. But it's not going to matter because Georgia Bulldogs gonna stomp a mud hole in you whenever Georgia travels down to Jacksonville, their second home away from home. Then you got to go on the road to Texas, where they're gonna whip your fanny. Then you got to go at home to LSU, where LSU, and that's a great game. That's going to be a great game, but LSU is going to stomp a mud hole in you. You also stay at home to take your beating against Ole Miss, and then you got to go on the road to take your beating at Florida State. So come on, bro. That second half of the schedule is like loss, 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 loss. You're not going to get a win there.
Nope.
So be happy with your 4-8 season. Be happy. And let's just hope that Florida State sucks so bad that you get a win there and become 5-7. And let's just hope that maybe you can get a win. Maybe LSU is not what they cracked up to be, what I think they're going to be. Maybe you get a win over there in the swamp. Maybe nerves get the better of LSU and you get a win there and you get 6-6. And then you'll go to a meaningless bowl game and get a mud hole stopped inside of you because you're going to be terrible. And then you're going to be on the Twitter, or you're going to be on the Facebooks, or you're going to be on social media on the YouTubes typing it up. Well, that was a meaningless bowl game. But if you win the bowl game, you'll be on there talking about how that was the best bowl game in the world and that bowl games matter. All right, let's go on to the next one. What's the next team preview, Ballard?
Alabama.
Alabama. Where are you getting these teams from?
I don't know. We could just go ahead and end the show if you wanted to.
I mean, if you want to, I was gonna
I don't know. I think I lost the list. I just had a bunch of SEC schedules pulled up.
Oh, okay. Well, I have the list.
Okay.
We could just do 2 more.
Okay.
We can do Missouri next, and then end it with Georgia. And if you want to
Okay.
do Alabama, we can if you want to. But let's
Another
do
time.
Missouri. Let's do Missouri. We'll do Missouri and Georgia, and that's it.
All right.
Um, so Missouri brings back on offense Brady Cook. Um, they lose their running back in Schrader, but they get Georgia State Marcus Carroll, and they get Appalachian State's Nate Noel. So they'll be on the ground. As far as the wide receivers, you got Luther Burden and you also got Theo Wees. They're going to be one of the two best uh, wide receivers in the SEC, in my opinion, with Brady Cook behind there. Y'all going to have a really good offensive line. Um, Once again, as far as the defense goes, defense is going to be great once again. Um, you know, I think you also have on the defense, you got Johnny Walker, one of the top edge rushers. He's going to be returning. You also have Michigan State's defensive end, Zion Turner, and defensive tackle Chris McClellan from Florida. So you got them coming to Missouri to help beef up that Missouri defense, which is going to be really good. Um, the secondary is going to be awesome with Joseph Charleston and you also have Clemson transfer Toriano Pride coming in, so looking good over there. So that's pretty much that. As far as the schedule goes, I think Missouri has the easiest schedule in the SEC this year. If you want to go ahead and pull that up,
Yeah, for sure.
so they start out with Murray State. That's going to be a win. Buffalo Bills. That's going to be a win. Boston College. That's going to be a win. Vanderbilt. That's going to be a win. You're
Mm,
going to be four, you're going to be 4-0.
probably. I don't know, man. I never know what to make of Boston College, but recently they have been terrible. I just want it. I'll give Missouri a win there, but I'd be careful about teams like that you don't play often in the Power Four. But continue
Right.
on.
You got a bye week to get ready for Texas A&M. I don't know exactly how Texas A&M is going to be, but I do know they have a lot of 4 and 5 stars. So, and it's going to be at Kyle Field. You got to go to College Station there. So that's a toss-up game for me. 50-50 game. Don't know who's going to win that, but you do have to go on the road to UMass. That's going to be a solid W there. You got to play Auburn. I think you're going to beat Auburn. It's at in Columbia there, and Columbia used to not really have a home field advantage, but it seems like over the past couple of years, Missouri has started making a lot of noise there in Columbia, in Fairfield Field. You know, I think the home team wins there. Give me Missouri. That's going to be your 6th win. All right, scroll down a little bit. You got to go on the road at Alabama. That's a very tough game. I don't think I'm gonna go ahead and choose the home team here. But if Alabama was going to Columbia, that would be a different story. I might choose Missouri, but I'm gonna choose Alabama just because of the home field advantage there. Um, I don't really feel comfortable picking Missouri to beat Alabama at Bryant Denny, so I'm gonna go with Alabama here. You got a bye week. You got to face Oklahoma. I think you're going to win that. I think you're going to take care of South Carolina Gamecocks, even though the Gamecocks will be a home team. You got to go on the road to Williams-Brice, which is like I said before, a rowdy crowd. And I do think you take care of business there. And then you play on the road at Mississippi State. You could drop that South Carolina game. So then you face Arkansas, which I think is a win. So The two games that stand out to me that you can possibly, well, three games. You're definitely losing probably the Alabama game. You're probably gonna lose either at Texas A&M or at South Carolina. So I peg y'all around 10-2, at worst 9-3.
I would agree. I think that you're losing to Bama for sure. You could beat A&M, but that's going to be a really tough challenge. UMass is a good team. I don't think they're going to be good enough to beat Missouri. It is interesting that they have that as a road game, though, before Auburn. Oklahoma, don't sleep on them. Never sleep on any team on the road in the SEC like South Carolina and Mississippi State. Those are back to back road games there. But I would say, I don't know. Could they go 11-1? You think if they just drop Alabama, like could they go to Kyle Field? You think and beat the Aggies and go 11-1? What do you think?
I think if they beat the Aggies, they're going to drop the South Carolina game. If they beat South Carolina, they're going to drop the A&M game. They're going to have two losses. I just don't know which one they're going to lose to. It's either going to be that Texas A&M or on the road at South Carolina. Being on the road playing South Carolina. Remember this: South Carolina has not beaten Missouri, I want to say ever. So since what's the head coach name? I can't think of his name right now for some reason. Uh, Dirk Nowitz or whatever his name is, right?
Great quiz.
Drinkwitz. Yeah. Ever since Drinkwitz has been the head coach of Missouri, South Carolina has not won against Missouri. Um, that was the same way with Texas A&M. They had never beaten Texas A&M up until a couple of years ago. They finally got a win over Texas A&M, and that was at Williams-Brice Stadium. It was very electric. The crowd was into it the whole entire game. I think you could see a replay of that. They finally got over the hump with Clemson a couple years ago. The only team that South Carolina has not got over the hump with was or is Missouri. So can we see South Carolina make a splash and get a win over Missouri? It's possible. I'm not going to say that they definitely not going to win that game. I could see a world where South Carolina is on the verge of trying to make a bowl game. Maybe they're 5-6 and they need one more win um, to get that last. I mean, maybe they're on the verge of getting bowl eligibility. Maybe they have 5 wins already and they need that win to get to 6. I can see a world where South Carolina wins, and I also can see a world where A&M wins. I just don't know what to actually expect from A&M. I am also going to drink the Kool-Aid from A&M because I do have them pegged at 8-4, which we'll talk about them in another video. But um, I think Mike Elko is doing some great things over there. But I have them pegged at 10-2, Missouri.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right. Last but not least, let's go ahead and knock this one out. This should be easy. Georgia football brings back Carson Beck. You also bring back Tate Rowledge on the offensive line. You also bring back Ernest Green on the offensive line. You also bring back, Xavier Truss on the offensive line. As far as defense goes, you got Michael Williams on the defensive line. You also have Nazir Stackhouse on the defensive line. You also have linebacker Samal Mandan. I don't know how long he's going to be suspended for. I don't know, but he's definitely going to play this season. You got one of the best safeties in the country in Malachi Starks. Also forgot to mention you got a ton of running backs in Trevor Etienne and Branson Robinson and Roderick Robinson. Sorry. You got some great wide receivers in Arian Smith. You got you got Kobe Young. You're gonna have Oscar Delp. You know, um, you're gonna have a lot of guys coming in for the Georgia Bulldogs to play receiver there. I think at receiver you can pretty much plug and play anybody on the team really, because I think a lot of the freshmen are going to make some noise um, at Georgia. But you also have Stanford tight end Ben Yorsak. He'll be able to help at tight end as well. But I'm really excited for the Georgia Bulldogs. Um, I think they're going to have a tremendous year. And let's go ahead and take a look at their schedule. They have like the third hardest schedule in the SEC. So let's see what their schedule looks like. You open up with the Clemson Tigers at Mercedes Benz, which is like a home game for Georgia. We're very familiar with playing at the Mercedes Benz. You know, playing actually Clemson Tigers a couple of years ago at the Mercedes Benz, beating them.
No, no,
Going
no, no. You played them in Charlotte in 2021, but close enough.
well, I was thinking about I don't know what I was thinking about. I know we played
24,
Oregon.
no,
We played
2014 you played them in Atlanta. That's right.
we played Oregon at the Mercedes Benz. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
But the whole point is we're very familiar with the Mercedes Benz going to the SEC championship and stuff like that. Winning I'm pretty sure we won a playoff game at Mercedes Benz. Could be wrong, but um anyways, you have to you'll get I think you'll win there. Clemson's going to be a very good team, but I think Georgia gets the nod there. You beat Tennessee Tech, go on the road at Kentucky, you beat them. You beat Alabama, you beat Auburn, you beat Mississippi State, and everybody's saying that you're going to lose to Texas. I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and talk that up as a loss. You're going to beat Florida at Ole Miss. Are they going to really be a threat? Jackson Dart, he's really good. You got a lot of weapons around him. That offensive line is going to be really good. The defense, is that going to be, they added some key pieces from the transfer portal. Lane Kiffin's the transfer portal king. So are they going to be able to gel well together? All that talent that they have, are they going to be able to piece it together to create a solid defense that can beat Georgia? I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and say Georgia wins that. Georgia beats Tennessee. Georgia beats UMass. Georgia beats the Yellow Jackets. I have them at 11-1. Either they're going to lose to Alabama or they're going to lose to Texas. Pick your poison. I don't really see any other team beating Georgia. The next closest one would be Tennessee. That's if Nico is what he's all hyped up to be, because we do struggle with the running quarterbacks there. I also could see struggling with Ole Miss, but in the end, it's going to be 11-1. We are going to lose a game. No surprise. But I also can see a world where this tough of a schedule that Georgia does go undefeated in. I could see that. I know what you're thinking, Ballard. I know you're thinking that I got the Georgia Homer glasses on. But I don't. I have prescription glasses, okay? These are prescription glasses. These are not Georgia glasses. They might have been made in Georgia. They might have been made in China. I don't know, but they're not Georgia glasses, okay? So I can't take them off because I can't see. But the point is, Georgia's going to be elite once again. We got a lot. We got like 75% of our returning production coming back from what I thought was a phenomenal team. We went undefeated in the regular season, came up and lost by 3 points to a playoff team in Alabama last year in the SEC championship. And, in most years, 9 times out of 10, if you tell me that Georgia's going to go undefeated and lose by 3 points to a playoff team, that means Georgia's probably going to be a playoff team too. But this past season was a really weird season with 3 or 4 teams going undefeated, and you got that one team that had one loss that slipped in somehow, and it was just a really weird, wonky season. Georgia definitely could be argued that they should have made the playoffs. I'm not one of them. I think Georgia should have been left out because there was too much talent ahead of us, too many undefeated teams ahead of us. So with that being said, we should have won versus Alabama, and we should have continued to go for the three-peat. But that's kind of like a poetic story, anyways, because Alabama was trying to get their 3 in a row, and Auburn messed it all up. And then Georgia tried to get their 3 in a row, and Georgia messed it all up. So and Alabama messed it all up for Georgia, and Georgia and Auburn are kind of like rivals, or they are rivals. So that was kind of poetic, if you ask me, to see that unfold. But with that being said, I'm tired, and if I messed up on anybody's names or stuff like that, uh, don't shoot me, okay? It is 1 o'clock in the morning, so with that being said, sometimes I have brain farts thinking about players and stuff like that at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm human, but if you want to leave a comment, tell me I missed, oh, you missed another Georgia wide receiver name. Okay, whatever. I know we have Ra Thomas. I know we have Dominic Lovett. I know we have them players. I just had a brain fart, so don't hit me with the keyboard warriors. Anyways, I'm tired, Ballard. You want to get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it, buddy.
All right, guys. If y'all like this episode, leave it a thumbs up. We're live streaming on Ballard Sports Media with Christian Ballard, and live streaming also on the Mayhem Matthew channel. If y'all like this content, leave it a thumbs up on both of the channels, and subscribe if you want to. It's completely free. Go Dogs!
Awesome. Roll Tide. Love you guys. Thanks for watching.